Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. Our special guest tonight is Carrie Accardi. Welcome to the show, Carrie.
Thank you.
And then over in the wings we have Dufo, which is Gigi, Elijah, and Derek. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Dufo. So you'll be back in just a moment with song. We have our hemp news segment. We've got some videos for you. Our phone lines are down again, so we aren't taking phone calls. We understand from the studio that we're a couple weeks out on that. And we have our banner turned around because of the Israeli Canadian oil company that has got a preliminary injunction after a hostile takeover based on fraud and lies and deception of our clinic, and we hope to prevail in an ultimate court battle. But right now we have to turn around our Hemp and Cannabis Foundation banner, even though I founded the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation and continue to have THCF as an Oregon nonprofit corporation. For some bizarre reason, this Israeli Canadian oil company wants to steal everything I've done in my life, but we'll talk more about that later. And for the time being, though, we'll bring on our infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
All right, our first story tonight's from Washington, D.C. Existing federal protections for medical marijuana states are expected to continue through at least December 8th. The $15.3 billion disaster aid package debt limit increase in government spending approved by Congress today includes the existing Rohrabacher-Blumenauer provisions, which prevents the U.S. Justice Department from using funds from the federal government to interfere with the 46 states that have legalized some form of medical marijuana. Even though the House Rules Committee hearing earlier this week struck down the amendment, and Dana Rohrabacher, congressman from Orange County, complained about that. Still, the GOP-led House Rules Committee blocked that vote, but the compromise on the budget extension and bipartisan disaster relief has changed that. So the aid bill, which was sent to President Donald Trump, extends the omnibus legislation passed to fund the government through December 8th. The short-term spending fix is also a short-term victory for the Rohrabacher-Blumenauer sponsors, which were dealt a blow by the House Rules Committee earlier this week. The Legislative Committee nixed the amendment from House consideration for the fiscal year 2018 funding bill. We have at least 3 months of certainty right now, but the fight isn't over. Other congressmen are joining the fight. That fight includes efforts to land the provision on the final spending bill, officials said, noting that the language was included in the Senate Appropriation Committee's approved version of the bill. Congressman Earl Blumenauer from right here in River City, Portland, Oregon, and Dana Rohrabacher from down in Orange County, California, the co-chairs of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, condemned the decision by the House Rules Committee leadership to block their amendment that prevents the Department of Justice from interfering with state medical marijuana laws. The Senate Appropriations Committee approved the amendment language in July. The amendment's been included in every annual appropriations law since 2014. Congressman Blumenauer and Rohrabacher released the following statement, quote, "By blocking our amendment, committee leadership is putting at risk the millions of patients who rely on medical marijuana for treatment, as well as the clinics and businesses that support them. This decision goes against the will of the American people, who overwhelmingly oppose federal interference with state marijuana laws. These critical protections are supported by a majority of our colleagues on both sides of the aisle. There's no question if we vote we're allowed, our amendment would pass on the House floor, as it has several times before. And so that is going forward. The programs serve millions of Americans. This setback, however, is not the final word, and the House and Senate leadership can negotiate a long-term funding bill, and they will continue to fight for these protections, end quote. Also in Washington, D.C., the position of the Director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, or ONDCP, also known as the Drug Czar, who's responsible for setting broad federal approaches to controlled substance policy and certifying the drug budget of other agencies, will be given to Pennsylvania Congressman Tom Marino, a former state and federal prosecutor. Representative Marino has consistently voted against marijuana law reform measures on the floor of the United States House of Representatives as a member of Congress since 2011. Marino, who voted 3 times against amendments to prevent the Justice Department from interfering with state marijuana laws, also opposed a broader amendment to protect all state marijuana laws from Justice Department interference, and voted 3 times against amendments to allow military veterans to receive medical cannabis recommendations through the Department of Veterans Affairs physicians. Representative Marino appeared to advocate for the forced hospitalization of people who use marijuana or other drugs. Despite consistently voting against amendments to allow states to implement their own marijuana laws without federal harassment, Representative Marino told the Williamsport Sun-Gazette last year that, quote, "I'm a states' rights guy. The less federal government in my life, the best. I think it's a states' rights issue. If Pennsylvania passes it and if I don't like it, I can pack up and move." I suggest, Representative Marino, just move. We don't need you in this country. Go away. Representative Marino's appointment will require confirmation by the United States Senate. Out of Olympia, Washington, the regulation of adult cannabis use in Washington is not associated with any increase in teens' marijuana consumption or abuse rates, according to a report to the state legislature compiled by researchers at the Washington State Institute for Public Policy. The authors reported that the rates of current marijuana use and lifetime marijuana use have fallen among young people since lawmakers enacted legalization in 2012, even though lawmakers didn't really enact it. It was the people that voted on it. So that's incorrect. Anyway, these declines were most pronounced among 8th and 10th graders. Among adults, rates of cannabis use have increased. However, there's been no corresponding rise in adults' use of alcohol or tobacco, or in the number of adults seeking treatment for marijuana abuse during this time period. The researchers concluded, quote, "We found no evidence that I-502 enactment on the whole affected cannabis abuse treatment admissions, and we found no evidence that the amount of legal cannabis sales affected youth substance use or attitudes about cannabis or drug-related criminal convictions," end quote. Separate studies from Colorado and Oregon similarly report that the enactment of adult use marijuana regulations has not adversely impacted youth use patterns in those states. This report, I-502 Evaluation and Benefit Cost Analysis, the second required report, appears online at the Washington State government site, wsipp.wa.gov. That's wsipp.wa.gov. In 2016, the rates of marijuana use among the nation's 12 to 17-year-olds dropped to their lowest level in more than 2 decades, according to federal survey data released this week. Last year, 6.5% of adolescents used marijuana on a monthly basis, according to the latest national survey on drug use and health. That represents a statistically significant drop from 2014, when the nation's first recreational marijuana shops opened in Washington State and Colorado. The last time teen monthly use of marijuana was this low was 1994, according to the survey. Public health experts tend to worry more about adolescent than adult drug use because adolescents' brains are still developing. Teen drug use is linked to other health problems later in life, including addiction, criminal behavior, and cognitive deficits. The marijuana trend defies the warnings of those who oppose its legalization, who've long predicted that loosening restrictions on marijuana would send the wrong message to teens and increase teen drug use. That obviously didn't happen. Out of Sacramento, California, with the first marijuana licenses due to be issued in California next January, California lawmakers proposed Thursday that growers and sellers be able to group multiple permitted operations together. The change would allow a store that's licensed to sell marijuana for medical use to also sell cannabis for recreational use if it's licensed to do so. In addition, a marijuana store would be able to run a manufacturing operation at the same site, and businesses could group together multiple cultivation licenses in one facility, which would allow medical cannabis to be grown next to adult use cannabis, according to Ezekiel Allen, the head of the California Growers Association. The measure would also repeal a rule that licensed medical cannabis manufacturers can provide products only to medical cannabis retailers. Lawmakers said this change, which are contained in a bill by the California Assembly Budget Committee that addresses inconsistencies and confusions created by the cannabis measure that passed last year, will provide flexibility for license holders and convenience for customers. New rules are in place now here in Oregon. All cannabis sold legally in Oregon will be tested for pesticides, according to a notice issued by the Oregon Liquor Control Commission last week. The Oregon Health Authority created permanent regulations on pesticides that require that all cannabis to be tested before it can be approved for legal retail sale. The new policy replaces the temporary regulations set earlier this year. According to the OLCC notice, quote, every batch of usable marijuana, flowers and leaves must be tested directly for pesticides according to the Oregon Health Authority's testing rules in order to be compliant. This includes untested product that was collected for sampling prior to August 30th. Some temporary rules regarding the sampling and testing of usable marijuana have expired, and the Oregon Liquor Control Commission's recreational marijuana program licensees are required to follow updated OLCC and Oregon Health Authority rules, end quote. Fewer than 5 labs were accredited to test for pesticides last October, according to the OLCC. Today, the number of labs is almost doubled. Additionally, the Oregon Health Authority's most recent testing rules increased by 50% the amount of usable marijuana that can be tested together in a batch. Previously, you could only test 10 pounds in a batch. Now you can test 20. So that makes it cheaper for the producers. Our last story tonight is about national television. In a first for the cannabis industry, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Viceland, The Weather Channel, Headline News, and Fox Business are now airing a national advertisement for a cannabis law firm. The networks didn't want to hit people over the head with the word marijuana, according to Bob Hoban of the Hoban Law Group, a national firm that specializes in hemp, medical marijuana, and adult use cannabis. And he's worked with a Denver-based producer, DCP Media, to create a spot that met the requirements of a variety of networks. It wasn't easy. Bob Hoban, the firm's founder and namesake, said the networks wanted to make sure that we didn't hit people over the head with the word marijuana. So in the ad, they talk about industrial hemp and medical and adult use marketplaces. And so they also didn't want to see a lot of marijuana plants there on their show. So that's the end of our hemp news segment for tonight. We're going to jump over to Dufo. I want to thank you guys for coming in.
No doubt. Thanks for having us again.
Hey, it's good to see you.
We'll hit them over the head with some of this then.
All right. Sounds good.
Yes, Dufo. And let's do it, guys. First cut is something we call begging pardon. Stuck in my mind, so lost, like I'm standing still, watching my life pass me by like a train I missed I was supposed to ride. I was a cool styling, stone and proud, to nodding on the meadow. I do on no man can't even dare to stand, so they fall down to survive. We keep it begging on our pardon. He's stuck in the light bar for a bargain. I done lived but don't recall them days. Move along with a treat and love and lies. Changeling, I've come to be finally woe, but only managed to get away. I keep on thinking that if my folk ain't free, how could I be? Then it ain't changed. Better on a day that's gray. Now that the storm is gone, what's wrong? Ain't none to count on. Let alone who's cool and you can count on. I took a better way around and to be on high than sad and torn. Been on the job and been out back, no pay, enough time. Don't wanna kick it live till the dawn. Sing song, these blues till the day's gone. Yeah, keep on warm, eating off a wasted plate, but can't call it home. It's a long haul when you're crawling away with rolling stone, or peeking sundown when you're leaving the town in the gray. I'm in the pouring rain as I shiver outside, but I'm walking tall. It's been that kind of day. When my mama told me what you're gonna see has evolved and gone, and your father ain't tried and he leaving your ass in a hole. My ticket to ride I found on the ground with all the fear that built the water kept on making me fall. Now all the people come kneel down all day Sunday. I couldn't afford to let my soul be bland, smoking my folk out, 'cause I don't know whether God gon' bless us on tomorrow. Don't really wanna take the blame. That's all the more this story goes. Can't pretend y'all in this fire. I've been going miles. I decide to live by, or either live I do.
Thank you. Dufo.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. So Dufo will be back to close the show out here in a little while. I'd like to welcome Carrie Accardion. Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you for having me.
So you've been a cannabis activist for how long?
I left New York December 10th, 2013 on a mission to educate the world after my Aunt Kathy passed away.
Okay, so she had a cancer?
She was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. I believe she died, though, because of fear, because of stigma. We're from New York, very, very, very different than it is here.
Sure. There wasn't any medical marijuana.
There wasn't any medical
then,
marijuana.
And now it's just starting to open up.
Now it's just starting, and it's still very, very, very different than anywhere on the West Coast or Pacific Northwest. So I was really fortunate. I knew one person in the industry that owned a collective in Northern California. So I went there and I learned how to grow, and I went to political council meetings, and I sat with lawyers and lobbyists and researchers and patients. And then in January of 14, New York quasi-legalized through executive order. And I called a former colleague and said I was going to start, at that time, it was going to be a video production company to showcase the plant for the miracle she is. And he said he would be involved. I went to my dad's in Arizona, built out our business plan over a month, and I actually came to Portland on Super Bowl of 14. My cousin lived here. We were at a like a Super Bowl party. you have to understand, I'm raw, angry, sad. I lost my best friend, and like over the moon of all this cannabis information that I'm getting to learn about. And so I basically found someone at the party and asked them to connect me with a dispensary where we can create content. And they did, which is why I wore my friend's shirt, because this is the
dispensary you've been working with here?
Well, this was actually the first dispensary back in 2014. And Brian Maliki he's a patient, he has MS, and he allowed 420 Media as my company to come in and film, and we got testimonials, and we're able to take pictures of cannabis and really learn about what's happening out here and share it with East Coast, share it with the world, and really educate people, because thank you for what you're doing, because I am, humbled to follow in such steps of pioneers. And
you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're here now, and I have 420 Media, and we are actually, congrats to Bob Hoban. My company is also putting cannabis commercials on television, and those are the stations, some of them, that we are approved on here in Oregon as well. And I just brought in an in-house media buyer with 35 years experience in TV and radio to really help us get the information out for the industry and for the brands, and to get them to the people that need to see this, that need to understand. And again, this TV, being on TV is tremendous, because there's people that can't get out. They can't get out, and they're on the medications and a lot of pharmaceuticals, and they need to understand that they don't have to be, and that they can have a piece of medicated chocolate or a tincture or a lotion that's going to help them move their hands. And so I am humbled, excited, and honored to be able to really do this for the industry, for people like yourself, to get the story out, to get stories like of what you're dealing with, and you and I have spoken about this in your own business, and being a pioneer, so we can educate the people, because while it's great that it is being legalized, we have to make sure that we're listening to the pioneers before us. We're listening to the growers before that.
And the patients.
And the patients. Well, it's all intertwined, because without the patients, there wouldn't be the growers. And while I love recreational or medical, we have receptors regardless. And so if someone wants to smoke a joint instead of a glass of wine, cool, let them do that. And if they need to take oil because they're dealing with a cancer, I think that they should have that option. And that's where the legalization comes in and stuff, or where my aunt didn't have that option, and many don't in hospitals, and where people are really going.
So 420 Media, do you have a website?
I do. 420media.us is our website.
Okay. And so you're helping people produce ads and
right. So
what's your business plan, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, we have a lot going on. So I have been very fortunate. I work with Vivian McPeak over the past year, so I've been able to meet people like you and really create a lot of content. So we have about 3.5 years already filmed of the industry. We were working with a major to air a show called Medical Cannabis, The Healing Power of Knowledge, on a major broadcast station that unfortunately was put on hold after the election. So we continued to film, and now we have different cable outlets. So we have a show called The Fifth Quarter, which is hosted by a former NFL athlete named Marvin Washington. And we're bringing in Riley Cote, former NHL athlete. And that's to really educate about cannabis and athletes and how it can really help them with their CTE and bodies.
Pain issues that
pain
obviously
issues.
professional athletes have.
Right, and so using their voice and their experience to, again, mainstream, right? We have to share and take it from the patients that have been using this for so long and really get it out to the people that need it. We have another show called Nurse Talk that's hosted by 2 RN nurses, Heather Manis and Nurse Julesy Montero, who runs Cannabis Nurses Magazine. And so again, that's about really, educating people through, and entertainment, about our endocannabinoid system, about our receptors, about what kind of products exist. Because again,
the information's exploding. The studies are exploding. The interest is.
People
as well.
are listening, right? Mothers are leading this in so many ways, because you can't stop a mother when she has seen her child seize 300 times a day to not at all, and then combine it with our opioid epidemic. And it's just, it's a time. It's a time. You've been doing this for 20 years. Like I told Vivian McPeak.
35, really.
Oh, that right. This show.
No,
you're
this
right.
show, we're at 21 years right now with the show.
21 years.
But I moved to Oregon in 1984 to work on marijuana legalization, and I was Washington State normal coordinator from 82 to 1984 when I moved here. So that's 35 years ago.
Right. And so.
That's why my hair's white now.
I'm starting to get those platinum colors myself.
Yeah.
Well, then you understand more than anyone. And I told Vivian McPeak that in Keith's shop when I met him early on. I'm you guys. I'm you, just with a lot more energy usually. Because people don't know. As long as you've been fighting for this, and as lucky as Oregon is, and Washington, and Nevada, and California, Florida right now, it's...
California is just going to be opening up for adult use market, and Massachusetts is slowing down their legalization a little bit. So there are continuous developments in this space, and every state medical program and every state that has their recreational program are different and constantly evolving. It's keeping track of it. I mean, I think I went through about 30 stories today just on various developments in various municipalities and counties just in the state of California, you know. So there's just a lot going on. Where I remember I first started compiling hemp news on the internet back in, what was it, 1991. There wasn't a web at that time, so I posted it to Usenet news groups. But at that time, about every 2 weeks, I'd be able to get about 12 or 15 stories together. Now, there are 12 or 15 stories in an hour or two, you know? So the space is exploding just like the 24-hour news cycle.
And so with that, it is exploding, which is why it is more important for us to continue the education and make sure that we're educating about the plant and the right things. See, I feel like we're still existing in reefer madness with CBD only laws and people still having these discrepancies, which is just it's not right.
Yeah. You know, one of the things we like to educate people about is hemp oil and hemp as a fuel. You know, the main reason that marijuana is illegal is really not about drugs. That is a smokescreen, pardon the pun. It's really about money and power and the continued centralization of economic and political control. And most of that is wrapped around hemp as a fuel resource. The reason that marijuana was prohibited is because you can burn this stuff in any diesel engine with no modification of diesel engines whatsoever. And it is no coincidence that I've been talking about hemp fuel as being a resource in speeches around the world, from Kyoto, Japan, to Spain, and Argentina, and Chile. And now an Israeli-Canadian oil company, an energy company from Israel called Adir Energy, has come in and stolen our medical records. That's 270,000 patients' medical records, and stolen the business to try to kind of put us out. And they actually have written to this TV studio trying to get us taken off the air. And they've gone in, you know, they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight us. And we're continuing that battle. And so we urge you, you know, the real people who brought us marijuana prohibition were correctly identified by a friend of mine named Gatewood Galbraith, an attorney from Kentucky who passed away back in 2011, one of the pioneers who didn't live to see legalization. He said it was the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, fascist sons of a bitches who gave us marijuana prohibition. And now those sons of a bitches have come in and seized our medical clinics. So I want to urge viewers out there, do not go to Empower Healthcare on 18th Avenue. Do not go there. It's owned by an Israeli Canadian oil company. I mean, just today they were telling patients that we're just disgruntled employees. No, we were robbed. You know, they claim they paid us money. They never paid us a penny. And they've stolen our outdoor garden where we've grown marijuana for 15 years and given away thousands of pounds of free marijuana. So this year we don't have an outdoor garden to give away free marijuana. Instead, this Canadian Israeli oil company thinks they are going to sell it to finance their legal battle against us, though they never paid a penny for that property. They're just outright liars. Don't believe anything they say. If you need to help finding a doctor, we have a physician referral service. Doctors right here in Oregon and throughout the United States. Don't go to Empower Healthcare. Call us at this number. That's 503-235-4606. Don't believe the liars at Empower Healthcare. I feel sorry for my ex-employees that have to be put through this, but that's because of these Israeli, Canadian oil lying reprobates. Anyway, we have a video now from my friend. Oh, our video's gone down, I'm told. Okay, well, we'll have a video again here in just a moment. Oh, no, the video's ready now. We have a video. This is my friend Jorge Cervantes talking about cannabis cultivation in Denver. Stay tuned.
And I'm here at Good Meds in Denver, Colorado. And you like the hairnet? I love. We all got to wear hairnets, you know. I'm not used to. I hope this looks okay. I'd like to get a different one, but they only have this kind. I like a little color in my hair, you know. Anyway, so we don't have that. So what I've got to do is I want to introduce you to John Knapp. That is, well, what do you do, John? I mean, what's your title here?
I'm the CEO and founder of Good Meds, and we've built an amazing facility here over the few years. So let me show you guys kind of where it all starts.
Well, we were talking about this a little earlier before we started filming. We got to talk kind of loud because there's film, or there's fans going. Sorry about the fans, we got to keep them going. But you're talking about this, you've had some employee troubles and stuff, you know? I mean, can you explain about how people come here? They will, like, well, the average guy, I mean, it doesn't always just happen here. It happens a lot of places. People grow at home. They do really, really well. They don't have any idea about expenses. They don't, you know, it's not a business. And they do really well with their crop. They grow a lot of cannabis. They sell it. They make a good income. Then they come to a regular job, and they have to do regular things, and
yeah, you know,
it's a little difficult to deal with.
Cannabis is kind of glorified a little bit, but at the end of the day, when you come to work in a facility like this, it's farming.
Yeah.
And you're going to be moving dirt, getting sweaty, getting dirty,
yeah,
working hard, just like you would in any other agriculture industry.
Exactly.
And it kind of loses its luster pretty quick. If you're not expecting that, it can be a rude awakening for a lot of people.
Well, do people smoke joints all day here?
Not allowed to.
No smoking, no beer.
That's a state rule, but it's probably a good rule to have as well because you know, there's a lot of stuff to think about around here. You gotta stay sharp.
Sure. Well, it's a business now.
Yep.
And what's there? There's changing one. So please explain what's going on here in the vegetative room.
So we're sitting here in the bedroom, and everything comes out of a separate area from aero cloners, and we bring it in, and you can see they go in these little 5x5 pots.
Little 5x5 pots.
These ones are just transplanted. This is green cracked. It's going into pod 8, probably in about 6 or 8 weeks.
Oh, explain a little bit more about this. That's 6 or 8 weeks. Pot 8.
Pot 8. So these are metric tags. These are RFID tags that emit a radio signal, and the state can actually come by and inventory our entire facility just by driving by with a really sensitive scanner. And so that helps keep everybody compliant and and keep track of
That's like
everything.
spooky.
Yeah, well, you know, it's what we have to do in order to have the privilege that we do of being able to grow all this stuff. So
But everything looks really good. I have to say, it looks pretty healthy.
thanks to Keenan, we just went through a veg manager that didn't work out for about 3 months. Had a really bad run of plants going into the flower room, so we finally got all that stuff through. And now, thanks to the great team that was under him and the leadership that took over there, things are looking 110% better. It's incredible. So once we have the plants about this size, you can see we'll take and we'll prune up the bottoms real good. We'll take a lot of fan leaves off, more or less depending on the strain. This one got it pretty heavy.
These are all trimmed pretty heavy, yeah.
This is all trimmed pretty heavy so that when they're all bunched up together, they're not, you know, creating conditions for mold and things like that. And these are all getting ready this week to be transplanted. And what we'll do is we'll transplant them into these 3-gallon pots here, all in cocoa, 100% coconut husk. And
Do you do anything with the cocoa to get it ready before you put it in?
all we do is add a little bit of mycose powder to it just to get a little bit of good bacteria in there. And we'll top plenty of times, you can see, so we can get nice and branchy plants. And these are going to train really well into our flower rooms this time.
Cool. So how long will a plant spend in here?
We're 8 to 10 weeks from the time we take a cutting to the time that we're moving it into the flower rooms, which is the same schedule as what we have in the flower room, so everything's balanced. Basically, we have one plant here for every plant that we have in a flower room.
Perfect, perfect. And I see you've got this corrugated fiberglass here for your beds. That looks pretty simple, really easy to set up.
Pretty simple. We got everything on rollers. The stuff is all tied into drain lines down there.
These things save you a lot of time. That means you don't have to lift anything.
Exactly, and we can move this whole table over and kind of smush stuff together because right now veg is it's a very tight space for us, and it's really important that we have good healthy plants to supply the entire facility, so this is an area that really can't overlook.
Right, and I noticed you've got a heck of a lot of wind going in here, you know, a lot of air moving.
That's the idea.
Every leaf seems to be moving on these plants. That's really important.
Absolutely. We want to get as much air moving around here for 2 reasons. Number 1, it strengthens the branches as they're getting pushed around. And then number 2, it reduces the chance of mold and different kinds of pests growing in here if we can keep a nice airflow underneath the canopy.
And you know, something else too, it's really important about this. There's like, all the CO2 is used around the leaf really soon. And if you don't keep that moving, fluttering, then you have very much slowed down the plant process.
Absolutely.
Because there's a little layer right around here, you can't see it, but really underneath is important. Okay, and if you don't keep the leaves moving, you don't bring in enough CO2, and the transpiration doesn't function properly. So that's really just to keep the leaves moving. It saves you a lot. And then, like you said about the mold, mildew, and other problems, excellent move.
If you guys want to take a look over here,
okay.
See this device in the corner here.
We got a lot of there, so you got to talk half the camera.
This device over in the corner here is our CO2 delivery and monitoring system, and it consists of a controller, a solenoid valve, and a pressure regulator, and an alarm. So in Denver, they're very strict about the regulations surrounding CO2 supplementation in your grow facility. So you have to have an approved device that will be able to properly dial in the CO2, but also have an alarm setting on it so that if the solenoid gets stuck open at any point and the CO2 levels go above 3,000 parts per million, the alarm is going to go off and it will alarm outside the door, and that way you're not going to be in a hazardous condition and you'll know not to enter the room.
Yeah, usually too much CO2, I mean, when you get woozy, it's about 5,000 parts per million. And that's, you know, this is 2,000 parts per million less. And two, it's just wasteful when you go over like 800 parts per million.
Exactly.
It's just too much.
Yep.
And that means money, because this is now a business.
Yeah, we spend several $1,000s a month just on CO2. They come and fill our tanks with their truck, and every week, yep, they bring in, fill the tanks. It's nice because we have a fill box on the outside of the building, so nobody has to come in. They just drive the truck up, plug it in.
Wow.
15 minutes later, we're all filled up, and then they're back next week.
Well, that means he's going down to the welding supply store and getting those tanks. Those tanks are really heavy. And the part I never liked is I buy this brand new tank, and And then I give it to them, and then they give me an ugly one now. You know, I want the one I gave them. You know. Anyway, how many lights are in here, and what kind are they?
Let's see, so we probably have about 30 or 40 of the T5s. These are high output
Okay.
T5s.
Here.
Those handle all of the adolescent plants. And then once the plants become teenagers, we put them under the HID lights, which we have about 25 to 30 HID lights in here right now.
And I see they're on rails up there where you can move them back and forth, and then you can move them closer as well.
Right, and so we try to keep them all up as high as we can because of the way the ceiling is in here. You know, we can only get a portion of the lights up so high. But the idea is we have the ones that are closer to the plant set at about 600 watts, and then the higher up ones are set at about 1,000 watts, so they can really fill the room.
So it's a variable switch that you've got on there. You can change the wattage.
Exactly, and so it's important to ease the plants into the more powerful lights because they can get shocked pretty easily if you just throw them under a strong light in the beginning. And the more you can just kind of baby them while they're going, push them as hard as you can without stressing them out.
That's really important what you just said, because they can be stressed really, really easily just by a few more watts of light and a few more lumens, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
So you have to nurture the plant through the entire life cycle. That's super important. They're really, really cool. Well, gosh, so you've got these here, you've got racks here, and racks, and oh god, this is pretty high. That's pretty efficient. Pretty efficient. Do you run into any real big problems with temperature differential between the lower shelf and the upper shelf?
We do a little bit, but you know, the key is just getting good air movement so everything's nice and mixed. You're always going to have a little bit of a temperature difference because it's going to be hotter up top, but for the most part, we can keep it a small difference so that the plants kind of grow at the same rate.
Perfect, perfect. So the air movement keeps it from stratifying. So you have the different levels.
You can see how this air conditioner here is blowing the air straight up to the ceiling.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then across.
Right. Perfect. Yeah, you got fans everywhere.
We have 30 tons of air conditioning in this room alone, which is
30 tons of air conditioning.
roughly about 10 to 15 tons more than we actually need, but it's good to have a little extra in.
Sure. Now this is a humidifier.
It's been leaking a little bit, so we had to put the spray under it. They're sending out a new part for us, but we got to pump this out every day so we get the new part.
Okay. Well, you got to keep everything going all the time.
Well, we like to keep it nice and humid in here. You guys can feel it's probably
Yeah, I
about
can feel it.
70% humidity, about 82 degrees. It's really good for the plants. They seem to really rage at that level.
Yeah, you were smart. You didn't wear a jacket.
We'll head over to a flower room and see kind of where these guys are destined to go.
Let's go to the next room. We're going to see what happens next, and we'll see what the flowers look like. See you there.
So, welcome back. We will have that next segment next week, but we want to thank our friend Jorge Cervantes, who's actually from here in Portland. I first met Jorge back in about 1982, and he had a grow shop, a horticulture store at 100th and Southeast Foster until the late 80s when the federal government started cracking down on those stores. He wisely closed down and left the country for several years and operated out of Spain. Wow. But, you know, we talked to Jorge this past week. You know, here in Portland, and throughout Oregon and the West Coast, there have been these huge fires. Here in Portland, we had 2 days where ash was constantly raining down from the Eagle Creek fire in the Columbia River Gorge. And so we want you to know that that ash has a very high pH, about 11. And the ideal area for cannabis is about 6.5. So you want to shake that ash off of your plants and then rinse the plants off after you've shaken it off. And that way it'll fertilize the soil just fine and kind of neutralize with the other soil, but it's not something that you want to remain on your plants, but it definitely will fertilize for the next year. Okay, Carrie, I've got our guest tonight is Carrie Accardi with 420 Media at 420media.us. So you're creating advertisements for these businesses.
That's right.
Tell us about the issues that you find in creating these ads and getting them out there?
So it's been a long journey trying to do this and finding outlets. As you probably know, there was only a few conferences maybe 3 years ago where now there's like 3 a week, right, all over, and there's more magazines popping up. And so with television and mainstream, there's rules, right? There's rules, and there's markets, and there's select markets, just like you were saying.
I had ads on KATU television for a while, but then they changed their policies and took our ads off for our medical clinics.
Exactly. And they can pick and choose as they want.
Depending on the
Basically.
feedback they get. They certainly can.
Right.
I mean, if they want your money and you've got enough of it, they might want it more. If you don't have a lot, it's not that desirable.
So this is where we're changing, right? And so now,
Right.
as a new industry, like everyone else coming in, they want to make money, and we want them to make money because we want to get this information out.
Sure.
So what I'm doing is working with brands on their strategy and the creative component, right? So we don't see pharmaceutical companies sticking pills down people's throats to show their pill. Right?
Sure.
They share stories. They show people running down the beach and holding hands, and make people feel good, while they're literally telling you the side effects include heart attack, death, killing somebody else, whatever that is. And people still go, and if the white coat, aka doctor, tells them take that pill, they will. And so what we're trying to do is basically the same thing. We're sharing stories, except our stories, our side effects include giggling, sleep, pain-free nights, right? All of this much more beneficial stuff for our bodies. So it's really about, I feel like I carry, and 420 Media is a conduit really from the cannabis industry to mainstream, and teaching people on the ground that they realize now that they do need branding, but how to get it. Like I said earlier, 420 Media was going to be a video production company, and when we started creating videos, people didn't know what to do with them. So what we're doing is really educating and looking at them on a quarterly. Where are they looking to brand? What are their budgets? And when we're going into television, is no overt medical claims, none. No product. We are not showing flour. We're not showing anything really. And
That's
honestly,
a requirement, just like they were noting in that story in our hemp news segment. You
even,
can't show the marijuana plant or the leaf or.
And even beyond requirement, like, we don't have to. We just don't have to. If we look at television now, there's tons of commercials out there, and we don't have to see them doing the act to know it's a store, or it's a clothing or a hair or a fuel
or a building material, which segues perfectly into a little video clip that we have ready right now about hempcrete production. You can take the stems of the hemp plant and use it to create a building material that's like concrete, only lighter and stronger. So we have a little video on hempcrete manufacturing, and we'll be back in just a moment. That's making concrete, kind of, or hempcrete out of this stuff. So we'll be back just a moment after this video.
So today we have built a demo wall out of hempcrete, and the purpose of this is kind of just to show people how you can build with this material in more of a practical application where you would see it as a wall with the frame, with the light switch and socket and stuff like that.
Now, hemp is absorbing a whole lot of CO2 while it is growing. So we're doing something wonderful there. The growth cycle of hemp, 90 to 120 days for the type of fiber we're looking at. And so this is a fast-growing, renewable, carbon-absorbing biomass. So a basic hempcrete recipe is 4-1-1. 4 parts industrial hemp hurd to 1 part lime-based binder to 1 part water. So we take that appropriately processed and dried hemp hurd, We add the water to it so that the herd can soak up that water, because once we add the lime binder into the water, we're going to start to get our chemical set. So herd, then water, then lime, mixed together. About 7 or 8 minutes once you've got the good mix. Test it to make sure you don't have too much or too little water, which again will change with the temperature and humidity of the day, how much water you use. And then we cast that mix, that hempcrete, which is basically putting it in the wall. If it were concrete, they would call it pouring. Since it's hempcrete, we call it casting. And then we tamp around the edges and the timber framing, and we continue on up until we have gotten to the top of our form. We remove the form, put the form up a little bit higher, and repeat that process. Get 15 great people there from your community. You empower them on how to build their own home, much like the Amish barn raising, and you get your building done in a day depending on how big it is. Mix, cast, and tamp. At the end of your hempcrete home's life, that structure's life, you can actually take that hempcrete home apart, crack that hempcrete up, and put it into your next hempcrete mix. And or you could use it as some type of a soil amendment. So we're talking about reusable, recyclable, and durable. It just doesn't get any better than that.
So there's our friend Ben Christensen, who makes hemp soap here locally, along with Joy Beckerwith, and they are doing more hempcrete construction workshops all around the country. So if you want to find out how to build buildings with hempcrete, you can call us. We'll be happy to put you in touch with them at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. And also, if you need to find a doctor to help you get a medical marijuana permit here in Oregon or anywhere else in the country, we have a physician referral service. If you have any of those conditions there on your screen, give us a call. We'll be happy to help you at 503-235-4606. It's 503-235-4606. So Carrie, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
They can email Kerri, Kerri, at 420media.us. They can call 425-420-0585.
We should have gotten that beforehand, then we'd have it there on the screen. One more time, what's that number?
425-420-0585.
Or your website.
420media.us, either info at 420media.us or Kerri, Kerri, at 420media.us.
All right.
Love to help people.
Well, we're glad you could make it tonight. You're welcome to come back anytime. I want to thank our viewers. Again, if you're interested in reaching us, the best way is to call us at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. We have Elijah, Gigi, and Derek with Dufo are ready to take us out on another song. I want to thank Dufo for coming on. Thank Carrie, our Cardi at 420media.us, and thank you, viewers. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp.
Please, yeah.
Okay.
So far away of what we see today, but in reality we live it as one. Instead of putting down the fear, most of y'all thinking how to get out of here. Only when the crowd is clear will you see the one who has the courage to stand alone when no one came. You ride in front and find out the one who faking John Wayne. With all this figure, you figure we're home and free. I can't recall any time we was doing it. We wasn't going for broke for who? We die young and old and gone. My God, we've been doing it wrong so long today, running in the day, going on and on, on and on, on and on till we fall gone, on and on, y'all, after the on and on. Someone be coming with hits, y'all gon' bleed today. The bullets replace the whip snap from the older day. Now singing the blues, the spark stimuli stored and cued, ignored and viewed as a thread or two. Now they tell me if I crave for free, I'm sick. But it's cool if I slang bang a trick. Ain't that sick? Ain't you sick? Don't that cost you more? Most misery a commodity on Wall Street's floor. Prison industry complexion continue to land in my section. And here we go. Hee-ho, these guys don't seem the same by the river. Seize my people, Bob, we shook that. Bill start to hit me. Who's out to get me? To buying, slowly dying. Ain't no riot, it's just quiet till my soul is cold. Are we free down here? Deep inside this hole. Does the sun still shine in my mind? When my mind is dirty, it's dirty, it's dirty, and it's taking on me like it's It's dirty, it's dirty, it's dirty, and it got me looking around like it's You figure you in the city and you can come up, same as other motherfuckers. Ever pursue happiness with a frown on your face, singing we the people. So, man, my species seem gone. The past is not learned from to grow. See it all in the time, in the eyes of the pole, making with it what the news won't show. Real and them blues are growing out your head. Stuck without a bow in a cold out man, and you gotta go. Putting down the world to do what you gotta do. And when it's over with, let's sow your return. So we heat up some porridge and pour it on. Advantage, you're not at all dried out down a wicked drowning. I shift and dry right in the moment they start showing the signs that they're waking up, standing up, reaching the door in their eyes and see. Hit them in the head though. They got to go to get by, got desires for their own way. So I be sitting in the kingdom, sitting out the keys for 'em out the way to wait out the day, till the former figure they could.